Hey everyone, welcome to Zon in Canada. I'm your host Jesse Betteridge. Today we're talking about another anime series that has some very specific cultural relevance in Canada. And it's once again a show that was very popular in French-speaking Canada, but is completely unknown outside of there. And I know that all of you listeners just love it when we talk about shows that were only popular in French-speaking Canada. Actually, these tend to be my least popular episodes. Most people who listen to this podcast, they just want YTV, more YTV, and more YTV nostalgia. Well, too bad you're getting Gen Xer Francophone nostalgia again this time. And we're going extra hard because this is a show that has never been translated into English in any form. There are no official dubs. There's no official subs. There is not even a single episode of this show that has been fan subbed into English. I don't think there are even any reviews of this show on Mal, or even like an in-depth article on TV tropes or anything like that. We're talking about Le Petit Castor, or The Little Beaver, which is adapted from Don Chuck Monogatari in Japanese. And I have two highly qualified people joining me on the show again to talk about it today. So Patricia Gosselin is back. Patricia, how have you been? Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
And also back is Etienne or Dez. Dez, thanks for coming back. What have you been up to? How are you doing?
Hey, Jesse, I haven't been up to a lot lately. I think I'm in the hiatus phase when I'm not doing anything special. I'm just hanging out, and but I'm glad that you're inviting me again. It makes me feel less like a has-been, and I'm glad you think I'm highly qualified for that stuff.
Well, I mean, the last time I had you on was when we talked about another talking animal show.
Yeah,
Was on was on Fables of the Green Forest.
yep.
And it's going to be very difficult to not compare these two shows because, well, I mean, of course, in Japanese, Fables of the Green Forest was Rock Chuck the Mountain Rat. This one is Don Chuck Monogatari,
Chuck.
and I don't think that was a coincidence.
No, I don't think so
I
either.
don't think that was a coincidence at all. Yeah, but this is a show about cute animals living in a forest, starring a yellow beaver, and along with his friends, and that aired in French on Radio Canada, again under the title Le Petit Castor, starting in 1979, and it ran all through the 80s. And this wasn't really a minor thing. I think for viewers in Quebec, this show was right up there with Candy Candy and Albator and those. Would that be accurate?
I think it was even more popular because, at least from my point of view, when I was a kid, it was definitely aimed at kids, unlike like Harlock was a bit and at an older audience, and it really resonated with us.
It's almost as violent as Albator sometimes, though, or as Captain Harlock.
I was surprised rewatching it. Actually, I didn't remember it being this rough.
There's death in this show. I think it says more blood than Goldorak did.
But it had a good balance of action and drama. I think
Yeah.
that drama that was appropriate for like elementary school children, of course. Although sometimes there were disturbing moments. Well, not as disturbing as the level of Berserk, but still, it's
Not quite.
still unsettling. Yeah.
This show does have an episode where like this panther's entire karate clan is wiped out by this tiger. Then he gets amnesia. Then he gets his memories back, and then he seeks revenge. And it is insane. I couldn't believe this episode. That's the episode. I don't think it was dubbed into French because they didn't do the whole show. But if you look up,
it was like 99 episodes in Japanese, right?
Yeah, but if you look up Don Chuck Monogatari, like all the clips from the Japanese version are like from this amazing Karate Panther episode that I did watch, and I recommend. It was something else. And the final episode, I didn't watch every episode of this, but like the final episode has like this guy who was wrongly imprisoned, and then he breaks out of prison, and then he like finds his family, and then there's this bounty hunter who tracks him down, and then
God.
yeah, and then it ends with he stabs the bounty hunter, and then he dies, and they bury him, and then they have a memorial for him, and then they turn the bounty hunter in. I don't know. I don't think this one was dubbed in French. And I again, when I watched this, I had to watch this in either raw Japanese or raw French, so I didn't fully understand everything. And it's not always super easy to follow. Some episodes are, but some episodes get quite complicated and quite dark too. But it was still really surprising.
And
But yeah,
have you watched the episode? There is like a big buffalo,
yeah,
and
Yeah.
he tries to drown Chuck by hanging him from a rope to make him talk. Like that's pretty extreme.
yeah. That was the one with
And
the bear's uncle.
yeah, and something that's
Yeah.
fun in that episode is that the uncle doesn't want to fight the buffalo because he's been like accused by the townspeople that he's the bad guy and he's not, and he's upset. But then the moral of the story is like he mans up, he goes back, and he punches his lights out. Like violence is the solution in that episode.
Yeah, that is the moral of many
The
episodes
moral
of
is
of Don Chuck Monogatari, actually. So yeah, there's a lot that makes this show stand out more than you might think it, or more than you expect that it will at first glance. But also, Le Petit Castor is one of the few elite shows that was dubbed in Quebec and was aired exclusively in Canada. While this show did air in a number of countries, it did not air in any other French-speaking territory. The French dub was made in Canada and only aired in Canada. And I think listeners will find two other points funny about Don Chuck Monogatari or Le Petit Castor. So this entire 99 episode series was actually an advertisement made for an amusement park, starring its mascot characters. Most people who grew up watching the show in Canada and in other countries probably have absolutely no idea about this at all. And the other thing is that this show was made by the same studio that made Chargeman Ken. But I can assure you, even though it's not the greatest animation quality all the time, it's a lot better than Chargeman Ken.
I guess the fact that the show starred a beaver, which is like the national emblem of Canada, really, I guess it resonated with like Quebec importers, and I'm surprised it didn't reach the rest of Canada because like who doesn't like beavers here?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, there's again no English version of this at all. It's still surprising that so many of the shows that were dubbed in Quebec or aired in French in Quebec just never aired in English. Like you'd think that the English version of CBC would be adapting more of these shows, but it just never happened. That barrier was just not breached at all, and it really was too bad.
Maybe the questionable morals hindered the translation.
They just didn't want anime. I think that's what it came down to. They just weren't interested in
Yeah,
anime. That we don't want this Japanese shit on English language CBC. You keep it on Radio Canada. I think that was the attitude, if they even had an opinion.
Well, it's all thanks to Mr. Gia Lapointe. Also, he was very ahead of his time. We'll talk about him maybe a little bit later, but it's thanks to him.
We absolutely will get into him. We have not touched on Mr. Lapointe in a while, and I don't think we even went into that much depth.
Is he like the French Canadian Carl Mason?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, yeah, he deserves that level of notoriety, frankly. For better, well, I think mostly for better. I think he's maybe less controversial than Carl Masek. But yeah,
a lot older also. He started his business with his wife in 1949. Actually, he started to import movies from all around the world.
Yeah, so we'll get into Mr. Lapointe and the French production or the Canadian production in just a little bit. I want to start, and we've already touched on this a little bit, just about what each of you, what your personal background is with Le Petit Castor.
Well, in my case, for people of my age, it was truly, like Dez said earlier, it was truly a cruel cartoon. It aired on Radio Canada alongside shows like Nobody's Boy Remy or The Mysterious City of Gold in the early 90s. And then in the mid 80s, it was broadcast on the family channel called Canal Famille here. I remember watching it when I was very young, like 4 years old on Radio Canada. And then again later when I was about 8 or 9 on the Family Channel, actually. And it was definitely part of my top 5 alongside with, like you said earlier, Candy and Captain Harlock. And it was always, even later when it was here on Canal Famille, it remained one of those shows I really enjoy and didn't want to miss. So I found the character of Lily incredibly adorable. I wanted to have a big bow on my head, just like her. I remember this, and also I thought she made a great couple with Chuck. So it was a funny little couple. I like
Well,
them very.
she's basically the female version of Chuck, so
Yeah.
that means they're meant for each other. That's how it worked in 70s cartoons and 80s cartoons and 90s cartoons.
And I also ship Mr. Beaver with the Lily's mothers. I really hope. Do you know if they're together? I really ship these two characters.
They all have single parents. They're all single parent families, with the exception of not Mimi. Not Mimi. Yeah. She has an extensive family, but the rest are all have single parents. So yeah, I guess it lends itself to that.
But Mimi, her parents, they almost divorced in one episode. There is a big
fight.
Yeah,
they always fight.
Yeah. She's afraid her parents might divorce. So yeah.
They're basically telling in that show that family sucks. Like everybody is either an orphan, only has one parent, and the only one who has two has a dysfunctional family life. So it's weird.
The show is really grounded in, I mean, not dysfunctional families, but families that have some problems or have to work through some things, and that's part of what makes it interesting, and also makes it different from Fables of the Green Forest, which because they're much more human problems.
Unlike Pat, I never had cable TV growing up. We lived in the deep countryside, and the companies never bothered to install the cable infrastructures there. So I only experienced the Petit Castor on Radio Canada when I was of preschool age. Like, if you don't know, I'm 50, so I was 4 or 5 at the time when the show aired and was very popular. And I don't know why I really connected with the little beaver at Castor, because like he was smart, he was kind of badass. Like the song in French, the song would say "le plus petit mais le plus fort." He was the smallest but the strongest, and I really took those lyrics literally. Like in my head, he was some kind of superhero who would always like stand in front of the bad guys, even though he was a kid. I found that pretty inspiring. And also, fun fact, like we all sometimes say in Quebec that we are people of my age are the Génération Passe-Partout, which was a very popular children's show at the time that everybody watched. But the Petit Castor was kind of similar. I remember watching like both of those shows in kindergarten. The teacher would like roll in a TV in the classroom and dim the lights and make everybody watch something, and it usually would be either Passe-Partout or Le Petit Castor in school, like with episodes where people were fighting and terrible shit was happening. Those are really strange memories. I don't know if like kids still watch TV in school, but well, like kindergarten isn't really school, but still, it left like an impactful memory in my head.
That's not really something that ever happened when I was a kid in like the early 90s, but I've heard. I think that might have been more common in Quebec and Ontario too. I've heard of. I heard of that being a thing with the public broadcasters, maybe like providing materials to schools to play. I don't know for sure. I'm speculating.
Like it was like the actual airing of the show.
Oh, they just recorded it. Okay. All right. That's
my life predates my kindergarten predates VCRs, and well, no, they existed, but they weren't very common back in 1979 or 80, 81, 80. Anyway, my memory is getting hazy. My old man memory is getting hazy.
Yeah. We also had, I don't know, Dez, if you remember, but we also had a magazine in Quebec called Zip Magazine.
Yep, I remember that.
Wish Feeder article about show of the time. So along with posters and goodies, and you had posters of Candy or Albator, and Le Petit Castor appear in it frequently. Like I remember I had a poster from Petit Castor because I bought the magazine. So, and I think in my kindergarten class we had the poster too. So it was very popular.
Is it me, or it was never like actual Japanese artwork? Always like sometimes someone would redraw that stuff in a kind of bad art style, or this is the kind of images I remember from those magazines. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like stuff. It's not like New Type magazine or anything like that. It's like
Well, actually, you could get many things from Radio Canada. You had puzzles or like little books or things, but
I've
it was
seen some of the
always
buttons.
yeah, but it was like Des said, it was always like drew by someone
Yeah,
else.
redrawn by someone who
Later on. Yeah.
doesn't understand the anime style.
I guess
And
like having access to the original Japanese concept art was not something possible in that time period.
you have to admire the effort to try and emulate it, but yeah, they weren't getting the materials.
But maybe copyrights too. I don't know. But sometimes, Japanese
Yeah.
are sometimes picky about copyrights, so it's better to read on it than trying to buy the rights.
And I'm also curious, when did you two learn that this show was basically made as an advertisement for the Korakuen amusement park?
I'm gonna go first on that one if you don't mind. I have a friend called Dave Martin. He's probably listening to us right now. He's a huge Japanese theme park kind of guy, and he taught me that like about 15 years ago when I was like we were randomly talking about cartoons, and I was like, what the hell is up with that strange opening where everybody is having fun in a amusement park while the show itself takes place like in a forest. It made absolutely no sense to me when I was a kid. I would always wonder when are they gonna go to the amusement park we see in the opening, and the baseball stadium and the like swimming pool, and none of that was on the show. So I was asking that like half drunk with friends at a party, and he's like, "Dude, that's because Don Chuck is the mascot of a Japanese theme park," and he started to explain to me all about that, and yeah, I was like, "What? I never knew that."
And Patricia, when did you when did you make this discovery?
Actually, my sister told me about it sometimes in the mid 2000s, probably. She has found a Japanese website that mentioned it,
Ah,
and you really need to use the Japanese version of Google to find information about it because if you search
yeah,
Don Chuck in English, you won't find much.
there's nothing.
The park probably stopped being profitable toward the end of the economic bubble. So, from what I understand, the Tokyo Dome replaced part of the park. And there is an old video online showing a performance at the Tokyo Dome with people dressed as Don Chuck characters in like furry costumes. And they're singing. And it was filmed on a old VHS camera. It might be the only or the last visual footage that still exists. So I found that there was also like a signing event in the 2000s featuring Don Chuck and Lily at the Tokyo Dome. But I think the show has largely fallen into obscurity. There are probably more people in Quebec who remember it than in Japan, and I don't know if they still remember the park. So
I do wonder how many people who grew up watching this in Quebec actually would one day go to Japan and go to this amusement park.
It's also interesting that Patricia mentions the Google the Japanese Wikipedia article because before doing the podcast I had to read to Google translate the Japanese article to like read
yeah.
all about the park and the franchise because I was curious and it was the only source of information. It was a good read. I'm glad I'm glad I did it.
When I heard about this, I also assumed that it was like one of the many theme parks that popped up in Japan during the bubble economy. It's actually not quite. It has a different history. It is part of Tokyo Dome City attractions, so it's part of the whole complex around the Tokyo Dome. And anybody who's a sports fan will know about the Tokyo Dome, especially if they're a baseball fan. And it's to understand the context behind Don Chuck and Le Petit Castor, we have to know that about that company as well as Knack Productions. They're really the two companies that are most important to understand behind this show. So Korakuen Amusement Park, again, it's not just a small amusement park that popped up during that economic bubble period. It actually is still one of the biggest, most prolific amusement parks in Japan, even though it's changed a lot since the time that Don Chuck was there. It's not a big draw for tourists the same way that like the Disney parks are in Japan, and the Disney parks have certainly dwarfed this one in terms of notoriety. But it's still around. It's not called Korakuen Amusement Parks anymore. So it's like the Tokyo Dome amusement
City.
park.
No?
Yeah, it's part of Tokyo Dome City, or the Big
Yeah.
Egg, as it is also known. I think that's a good name for it, Big Egg. What it's actually one of the things it's most known for now is that whenever you're watching a show from Japan, an anime or a live action thing, and they're doing kids are like watching a live action tokusatsu performance taking place on stage. You have like the characters from the latest Super Sentai or something, like fighting a monster or doing a performance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually one of the main attractions at the current Korakuen amusement park and in the Tokyo Dome. One thing they're really well known for now is being the main place where those types of stage performances take place. But the stage performances weren't always tokusatsu stars. They used to be a yellow beaver named Don Chuck and his dad, Aristotle Chuck, were the two main headliners. And it used to be the Don Chuck shows that were a big draw that took place on those stages because they were, of course, were the mascot characters. So the theme park was originally supposed to be building off of the Korakuen Stadium. And because they obtained all this land for the Ministry of Finance, that was the former site of the Southern Military Bank. And that had previously been responsible for like financing Japanese imperial troops who were occupying various territories. We don't have to get into that. But the important thing is that went away after Japan surrendered. And then they just had all this land that they decided to turn into a children's amusement park. It would be a popular destination for urban children. And it opened in 1955. And it was very successful. In 1972, they had their 50th anniversary celebration. And it had expanded quite a bit in that time because they kept acquiring more land around this area. And they knew it was time for a mascot. So they started to do some market research around this time. And during the decision-making process, they wanted to have mascot characters, and they wanted to follow the principle of it being a place where parents and children can have fun. So they wanted to have this father-son dynamic, which led to the creation of Don Chuck and Aristotle Chuck. And I want to stress again, like I said before, at the time that they were developing these mascots is the same time that Rock Chuck the Mountain Rat was airing on television in Japan, which is, of course, Fables of the Green Forest, which is a proto world masterpiece theater show that was very popular. And I do not think it is a coincidence that they had an animal character with the name Chuck in his name when they came up with these characters. So again, they wanted to really stress this theme of family. It's a place where the whole family can come and have fun. And then these two mascot characters were unleashed upon park goers in the spring of 1974 and were immediately a big hit. They started having events like mini shows and in-park greetings. I think they do signings. I don't know how they do signings in those costumes, but you just kids have a chance to meet these characters. But that was really only a small part of it. The whole mascot development, all this market research was part of a larger marketing initiative. They also wanted to have an animated series made to spread the word of Don Chuck to all of Japan, so they can, again, get kids from cities across the country to come to Korakuen Amusement Park. And so they reached out to what I'm sure was the lowest bidder, Knack Productions. So Knack Productions at the time was considered one of the smaller anime studios. They were established in 1967 by former staff from Toei, as well as Jiho Eigasha. So that was like an educational. They are a studio that mostly made educational animated shorts. So ex-staff from both of those companies formed Knack. And Knack was distinct because, unlike other studios, it was actually run by animators and artists. So it was definitely more of a shoestring operation compared to a lot of the competitors that were out there at the time. And they weren't really trying to get into TV animation, but they did branch into that in 1971. And they worked on a few things. Well, of course, people know them as the studio behind Chargeman Ken, which is famously one of the worst anime shows ever made, or at least one of the funniest worst anime shows ever made. If you happen to not know what Chargeman Ken or you've never seen it, you can go on Crunchyroll and watch some Chargeman Ken. You will not regret it. They did eventually do some stuff for Go Nagai as well, Govarian, Groiser X. They did the shoujo volleyball series Attacker U, not to be confused with Attack Number 1. Attacker U is a different show from the 80s, and it is also ridiculous and hilariously over the top. And I think a lot of them also know them for doing a show called Sue Cat, which is a show about this very pretty cat lady who I think this show is very popular with furries, I believe. And it's actually funny because I noticed in season 2 of Don Chuck that the goat doctor, who is he? Dr. Boke? Is what
In
book?
French,
Yeah,
yeah, it's Dr. Book, yeah.
Dr. Book. So he has a nurse, and she looks exactly like Sukat in in Don Chuck.
Oh, wow,
And
like a cameo of the character.
Sukat didn't come out till 1980, so I think she was like proto Sukat, because a lot of the same directors and designers who would go on to do that also worked on Don Chuck as well, and a lot of other stuff that was done at Studio Knack. And yeah, so the original concept for Don Chuck, at least the TV show, was put together by Shizuo Koizumi from Studio Knack, and also Makiho Narita. And that really stood out to me because he is the same creator as Majiko Megu-chan, which is a really prolific magical girl show that Toei produced in around the same time in the 1970s. And I tried to look into this. I do not know the story behind it. I don't know if he was just the concept developer behind the show, or if he had some involvement with the mascots as well. But there is a common lineage between Don Chuck and Magico Megu-chan. And again, I tried my best to find more information on that, but I couldn't. But the first season of Don Chuck Monogatari aired on Tokyo Channel 12. It ran from April 5th, 1975 to September 27th, 1975. But then it came back the following year with a much longer running second season, Shin Don Chuck Monogatari, that aired from April 7th, 1976 to March 25th, 1978. So the series was directed by Kazuyuki Akiseko, and he was the director of Attacker U, and he also directed Voltron, or the series that was adapted from Beast King Go Lion. And the other director was Kozo Takagaki, who also did some other stuff with mostly with Studio Knack. So I keep ringing on how Don Chuck was maybe kind of a little bit of a ripoff of Rock Chuck, but there was one big staff overlap. Yoshiaki Yoshida, he wrote many scripts for both of these shows, and he represented probably the biggest overlap there. The music was by Hiroshi Yamazaki. He was a sound director behind a lot of other shows, mainly Captain Tsubasa, all throughout the later on in the 80s. But I think most of the music work was done by Keigo Tsunoda, who didn't really work on anything else. I don't have a lot to say about the music. I do think it's pretty good sounding show. Subsequently, all of Don Chuck's friends, and I guess we should go through the cast as well. I mean, we have Don Chuck, who is Petit Castor in French, and then his father, who is he's just Papa Castor in
Yeah,
French.
that's so lazy in French show when the parents don't have actual names. He's
Or
like
when
he's Papa Castor.
Or also when you just name the character the animal that he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
That is also a little lazy.
Yeah,
But
Little Castor is his actual name, so it kind of sucks too, right?
Yeah. And he's Don Aristotle of all the philosophers to name him after. But he is a smart guy, and he's like an artist, and he does commissions, and he's into books and reading and just being a just smart, reliable person for his son. And
so
then,
only those two characters were mascots, right? All of the other characters were created for the show.
Initially, there was just those two, but after the show premiered, they expanded the mascots at the park, and it just expanded into the exhibit called the Friends of Zawa Zawa Forest. So Zawa Zawa Forest is the setting in Japanese. It was changed to Clairefontaine.
Yeah, La Forêt Clairefontaine.
Yes. Zawa Zawa being like the onomatopoeia, like in Kaiji. And I don't think there's ever any evidence of where Zawa Zawa Forest is. I'm assuming it's in Japan, but we never see any actual humans in this show. There's no.
Do they have beavers in Japan?
No, I checked actually.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Well, they are beavers in Asia, but more in China, and they have a very flat tail, not like Canadian beavers. They look different, but yeah, they do have beavers in Asia, but not particularly in Japan.
The tails and the beaver in the show were not very beaver-like either. They were very small.
No, they're like Asian beavers actually.
Yeah.
So, but you see, like, there's always a big mountain in the background that remind me of Mount Fuji. So
the mountain used to scare the shit out of me. Am I allowed to swear? I'm sorry.
You're allowed to swear. Swear all you want. It's fine. You can swear on the beaver episode as much as you want.
But actually, it looks like Mount Fuji when you look at it. It could be. I think it Probably
it's way too
probably in Japan.
it's way too steep for being Mount Fuji though.
I don't know. There was something. Yeah, there was something eerie about this mountain actually.
What's it called on the other side? Like the Dark Valley or something? This
Yeah.
used to scare me a lot when I was a kid, a thing. I'm still a thing.
And do you remember who was from Dark Valley? The grandfather of Garou, the wolf.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I don't. I didn't watch like every episode before the podcast. I guess I missed that one.
And he's
Yeah,
very
yeah, I remember
evil.
his
He's worse.
grandfather.
I know, like
Yeah.
the first time they go there, they fight some. They don't fight, but they meet this scary lizard thing and they run away. And I'm like, wait, how does it work? Like some animals in that show are animals, and other are like humanoid. It's strange.
Well, they're all animals, but I mean, they're humans. They're humans in animal form. Occasionally, they do something that occasionally Castor will will use his teeth to cut down a tree or something like that. But for the most part, they're humans with human problems who are just
Yeah,
drawn as animals for the most part. It's
but I mean, sometimes they meet birds and they act like birds and fish, and that lizard thing was a lizard. It was dangerous. It was not like humanized at all. The rules are weird. Anyway,
there's a whole discussion to have on this, I think.
yeah,
But
I interrupted you were talking about the characters. Sorry.
the characters. So I know that Friends of Zawa Forest would have his friends. So you have Lily or Laura, who's the girl beaver. And there's Mimi. She's Mimi in both French and Japanese. She's the rabbit.
She's the only one who kept her name.
Yeah. And then there's Nenors or Daigo, who is the bear. So that's the main group of friends you see in most of the episodes, and they are the Friends of Zawa Forest. And then you have the bad guys, the local delinquents. Basically, you have Garo, who is he's the wolf, right?
The wolf.
Lord Dowd and I'm not pronouncing these correctly, I don't think. And
it's Lourdeau.
Lourdeau. Who's the other one?
In French, it was Finot.
Finot is the fox.
The fox.
Yeah, the wolf, the fox, and what is the other guy supposed to be?
Yeah, when I was a kid,
is he like a tanuki?
He's a tanuki. When I was a kid, I had no idea what that thing was.
Yeah, I thought it was a bear actually, but I discovered years later that it was actually a tanuki. So.
Yeah, the Japanese wiki says he's a tanuki.
Yeah, Super Mario 3 hadn't come out yet, so there was no you had no cultural reference for that.
And you know that Finot, Garou, and Lourdeau, you know what they remind me of? They remind me of young Yakuzas doing job for a higher boss.
It really depends. Sometimes they just seem like Yakuza. Bullies. Sometimes they seem like just delinquents or bullies. It really depends on what the plot of the episode demands.
And in some episodes, they're not even that bad in some of the episodes.
Yeah, apparently later on in season 2, they kind of became more friend characters. I don't think that they ever became the Friends of Zawa Forest, though. I don't think that there were actually mascots. I don't think they were like mascots in the park like the others. But
they're not like the usual like evil characters in American cartoons.
No.
They're more like troublemakers. Sometimes they're kind of evil, and other times they're just like mildly annoying. It always depends what the episode needs.
A lot of the times they have the kind of vibe of like post-war Japan, where you have like Yakuza just kind of hassling people, or making trouble. And actually, that's what a lot of the antagonists in the show are like. That's kind of the impression I was feeling in a lot of the ones that I saw.
Like foolish henchmen used by bigger villains all the time.
And
often Chuck would feel sorry for them because they're so stupid and forgive them in the end.
Yeah, and also they try to manipulate people when they're having like family quarrels and stuff like that. That's a common formula in the show. They try to take advantage of people when they're vulnerable or down, and sometimes they're successful and sometimes they're not.
And last week I rewatched the show and I said, "My God, they're teenagers probably. They are not adult or semi-adult maybe."
The Don Chuck show at Korakuen Park went on for 30 years until the spring of 2005 when it went on indefinite hiatus. But my understanding is that Don Chuck is still he's still kind of considered the mascot, but he's not as big a thing at the park today. And the park it's still there, but it's been changed a lot. It's just part of the greater Tokyo Dome sort of city area, and it's evolved in many ways, and we've sort of moved past the heyday of Don Chuck. But one other thing to point out is that he was a big deal for NAC Productions. So when they moved their headquarters to the Nerima Ward, had a tile art depicting Don Chuck Monogatari to the building's facade, and then it kind of became known, which is an interesting move because usually animation studios shouldn't bring attention to where they are. But it became affectionately known as the Don Chuck Building. And I don't know if that facade is still there today. Technically, NAC Studios doesn't really exist in the same form. It's now Ichi Corporation, which is more of like a copyright management company. I'm guessing it's probably gone. But for a time, Don Chuck was a prominent fixture on that building in the Narima Ward of Tokyo. But the certainly the heyday of Don Chuck is past us in Japan. But we need to talk a little more about the Canadian context as well. So Le Petit Castor was adapted by the company Bellevue. What was the company called again?
Bellevue Pate.
With Mr. Lapointe, J.A. Lapointe, or Gia Lapointe, I guess, as we should probably say. And yeah, so we've talked a little about him and the role that he played in bringing anime to French-speaking Canada on the show before, but we haven't gotten too much in depth. And I was hoping that Patricia might be able to talk a little more about him and the role that he played.
Yeah, well, his real name was actually Jean Albert Lapointe, YGA Lapointe. But there's not much information available aside from research done by Mathieu Lachance from the Nadeshiko Club. So if you search online, you mostly find information about Jean Lapointe, who's a Quebec actor, singer,
He's someone else.
and he was also a Canadian senator, but it's not the same. But
Yeah.
he wasn't very well known. Yet Quebec was ahead of other country in anime largely because of him, and I think he should be celebrated as a national hero. But hardly anyone knows about him. But my sister, she recently found a fascinating newspaper article about Marguerite Lapointe, his wife, actually. Um, in the newspaper, there was an interview with Marguerite in 2007, and she was already 90 years old at that time. So probably, I'm pretty sure she passed away since
Since then.
since then. And together, they found G.A. Lapointe Film Incorporated in 1949, and they distributed film from Europe and Asia throughout the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. And Mr. Lapointe, unfortunately, he died of illness in 1978 while returning from Japan. So when we watch Le Petit Castor, he had probably already passed away.
It debuted on Radio Canada March 24th, 1979.
But he and his wife, they played a crucial role in Quebec because they fought with Walt Disney to ensure Quebec had his own French version of the movies. So they were pioneers in film importation, and
Oh,
they even
really?
had to manually, yeah, and she said in the article, they manually had to censor films by cutting, film strip because the Catholic Church prohibited certain scenes from the movies they were importing.
It was another time.
It was another time, and the Catholic Church here was very something around this
Yeah,
area.
that changed. That changed.
Yeah,
That
we could
changed a
talk.
lot.
We could talk about the Révolution Tranquille, but it would bore the audience. So
But I don't know if the other Canadians know about how religious people used to be here. It was forbidden to have even like a kissing scene in a movie. It was like,
oh
um,
yeah.
yeah, it was very, it has to be censored. So, and she said that Marguerite said that they held film screening at home and even in a hospital room in Montreal. And they imported over like 200 films, and now they're all at the Cinémathèque in Montreal. And she also mentioned they were robbed in 1976, so they lost their projector and all their lenses were stolen. So that was a big drama for them. And they were really passionate about Japan, and Marguerite reportedly spoke fluent Japanese. So that's interesting.
Yeah. These guys are pioneers.
Oh yeah, they're heroes. We should
They, they,
celebrate them.
they
And it's
were
still
pioneers.
Yeah.
and it's still kind of a mystery how they got the rights to Sally the Witch, because they were dealing with film, so obviously they had a relationship with Toei. But somehow in these dealings, they were the first group outside of Japan to license that show.
When was it? In the 60s, right?
Yeah, that would have been 68.
Yeah.
Probably.
And they imported the movie Kwaidan in 1964. It's a Japanese ghost story film by Masaki Kobayashi. And it's likely they traveled to Japan many times, and probably they built connection in the film and animation industry. So, and that's probably then that in the 60s, La Pointe imported Sally the Witch, Minifee, dubbed in Montreal.
Do you know if they have anything to do with the French version of Lupin the Third we had on VHS when we were young? No?
No, Lupin the Third, I think, was dubbed in France.
In France?
Pretty,
Okay.
pretty sure, yeah.
That was Edgar, right?
Edgar.
No, it was the version we had was Lupin.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember this version. I remember Edgar de la Cambriole.
Yeah, that was something else. But I'm talking about like the first movie that I watched on Quebec TV in the 80s. Vince has a copy of that tape, by the way. We should watch it together.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
And they use Lupin was called Lupin, but the other characters had weird names, like Goemon was Sam Urai and weird stuff like that.
Well, it's surprising that Lupin would be the one name they don't change, because going back, it was the opposite in the English dubs.
This is why I thought it was something about like Quebec who didn't care about like rights. I will look into it. Like copyrights? What copyrights? We don't know. We only speak French.
And Bellevue Pate, what else did that company do? Was it something that La Pointe was normally involved with, or were they just a distributor?
I didn't find any information about it. I don't know if you know anything or.
No, I just know like they are or were part of Astral Media, so they still kind of exist. But I don't have any details.
Yeah, because Minifee was a different company, right?
I think so.
At the beginning, you can clearly see J.A. La Pointe.
Yeah.
So, and same for Petit Castor. So I guess.
Yeah. I didn't know at all about that guy when I started rewatching the show last week, and I saw the name. I was like, "What the hell is that guy?" See, I said hell this time and not fuck. Oh, I said it. I shouldn't have.
You will have to censor it.
No. We're not doing that. This is not.
Oh no, okay.
This is not 1940s Quebec. We don't have to.
Yeah.
Remember that.
This is my English-speaking friends often tell me that in Quebec we have like a very liberal use of the English swear words. Like they're absolutely benign compared to like other things we could say here.
Yeah, you can swear in English, but you don't swear in Quebecer.
The original Don Chuck and Shin Don Chuck Monogatari ran for a total of 99 episodes. These were not all dubbed into French, though. They only dubbed Wikipedia. It has 54 episodes listed, so I'm assuming that there are 54.
But the DVD sets only has like 26 episodes.
Yeah, so on YouTube there are 26, and I don't believe that anything else has been preserved. But I didn't check archive.org, but I'm assuming that probably what's on YouTube is all we've got, because it was, and they seem to be from different recordings as well.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because 52 is an odd number for it. Well, it's like 2 seasons of 26, but it would mean like they only like translated the first season and half of the second one, and not even half.
But so also all the episodes are mixed up. The of those 54 episodes, they incorporate episodes from both seasons.
Okay.
So in fact, I think like episode 5 was actually the episode with the Ox. That was actually the season 2 premiere in Japan, but it's very early in the French run. And there's no like real first episode of Don Chuck, but there was like what ran first in Japan, which was an episode that set up the relationship with Don Chuck and his father. And that's the linchpin of the show, is the fact that Don Chuck's mother passed away a few years ago. And that seems to be what drives a lot of the emotion and conflict in it. And it also seems to be like the template for all the family relationships, because most of them have a single parent or there's some kind of similar kind of difficulty going on. with family life for most of these characters. But yeah, there was a first episode, but it runs later in the French. There again, it's all mixed up. I tried to figure out what episode was which, and I just kind of gave up because it was so much work.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, just like the Flintstones. I mean, you can
Yeah,
watch it backward, and
it's very episodic.
It is very episodic, but it does change over time. Like the second season episodes are more violent. The trio, the local delinquents, they are less evil in season 2, and they're yeah.
I guess this is why I guess this is why I found them inconsistent when I was a kid, because like it would jump from season 1 to season 2, and sometimes they would be more evil, sometimes they would be more mischievous.
Yeah,
so.
it was still a little all over the place, I think. But yeah, there's it definitely jumps around in the French version a lot. But there's a few things that really stuck out for me from what I watched of this French version. First of all, is that all the Japanese text and insert songs are completely intact. They do not remove any Japanese text. The songs are in Japanese. I think this might be like the first. Were there any Japanese songs in Minifei? I don't think so.
Oh yeah, there were some in some episodes.
There were in some. Okay.
In the backgrounds. Yeah.
Not all the time, but sometimes in some episodes.
Yeah, but it's funny because, like you said, they kept like the Japanese text, and I think they kept the Japanese title cards as well. But sometimes they would like come up with some weird explanations for the text in the episode, like, "Oh, this is a Chinese book I found." Like what?
Yeah, actually, it was and same thing for you, Des, I suppose. But it was my first exposure to Japanese, actually. Back then.
Yeah, me too. And I the first Japanese word I learned was tsutsuku at the end of the episode. Like what those characters are. I would draw them and ask around, and eventually I found someone who could help me translate them to Japanese, and it meant to be continued.
I had a similar reaction when I saw Suzuku at the end of Gundam Wing episodes, but that was in 1995. This is 1979.
It was like 15 years later than me.
And at the end of the show, you would hear the song in Japanese, like dun 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 chaku.
Yeah. Sometimes when stuff was going,
I remember I said, "What are they saying? What the fuck?"
I used to understand like dun taku, like give me your tail, and I was singing like dun 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 taku, and this is not what it was saying at all.
Well, they are beavers. It's logical.
Yeah.
It's a tail, but.
But also, I did not like some people don't like people would be like weirded out if by Japanese culture if it was not properly localized. But I don't remember ever feeling weird about the Japanese text or the Japanese songs. They were just part of the show, and I did not even ask or feel like confused about it. It's strange.
Like we've already discussed, the opening credits are basically advertising Korakuen Park and stadium. Yeah. They're playing in the theme park. They're engaging in Olympic sports in the stadium and playing baseball. All the things that you would have associated with that whole area back then. Now they do completely change the opening song. I like that song, and I like the original Japanese song as well. But one thing that really stuck out for me was the ending credits. They actually maintain the ending credit animation, which is something that you almost never see in localized anime in any language, in English or French or anything. Usually, even if they maintain the opening, they'll just do a standard credit roll for the ending, or the ending theme will just be the opening with the credits rolling over it. But they actually keep those stills that they use for the original ending, and they also have just a non-lyric version of the song as well. And that really surprised me, and I really like that a lot.
You know what's funny about the ending credits? Like the song is kind of like it's like enka, right?
Yeah.
Japanese enka music from the 70s, and a lot of other cartoons at the time had a similar vibe in the ending songs, like Demetan and Hatch the Bee. And I know that when we were a kid, this kind of vibe was we would call that like the Demetan kind of music. And when we would listen to like song on the radio that had, like, enka has been it's like inspired from some older American and French music. like Bang Bang from Nancy Sinatra has that kind of same vibe. So when that song would play, we would like, this is a Demetan song, and it sounds like the Petit Castor ending. So it we didn't know what enka was, but it kind of permeated because of that distinctive style of like sad indie music from Japanese cartoons of the time.
That is Demeton music to you. That's probably how you
Yeah.
always think of it.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, Demeton is another anime series that was dubbed in Quebec in the 1970s and aired on Radio Canada. It's about a frog. It's quite twisted, and we will talk about it at some point in the future on the show.
Like the first time I've heard like actual enka music, I was like, okay, no, I get it. This is what they were aiming for.
And the band Yellow Molo, they sang the
Yeah.
Demetang song in Japanese actually on their album.
Really? I only know they did the Demetan song.
They did the Demetan song, Petit Castor,
I never heard that
Mysterious
one.
Cities of Gold.
Yeah. Like I was telling Jesse the other day, just to give you an idea how popular that cartoon was. Like
You both sent me a link to this band doing a cover of the Le Petit Castor opening, and they did other covers. They did Albator and Goldorak.
Yeah.
And but Le Petit Castor was right alongside them.
They were nerds, just like us.
Yeah, and when they sold the DVD sets in the early 2000s, you can actually their album, not their album, but there was a CD with their music to get free with the DVD set. So
oh wow,
yeah,
interesting. And they did the Japanese theme too. You said.
Yeah, the Demetan song is actually in Japanese.
Okay.
Well, but because the Demetan song was in Japanese on TV.
Yeah, that's
it. Interesting trivia. So Gundam Wing was the second anime to have a Japanese opening on Canadian.
Like Hachi, the bee, the orphan prince Hachi.
Yeah. This one also kept the Japanese song.
Okay, so a few of them did. Wow.
Song.
Okay.
Yuke Hachi Mitsubachi Hachi. Okay, you can cut that as well.
It's funny because we were like 5 years old and we were singing in Japanese because that was on TV. So
that's incredible. I don't think any. I think maybe Italy had some shows that still had the Japanese openings when they ran there, but
yeah,
very uncommon.
But like the common the link between those three shows is they were all Japanese shows dubbed in Quebec by Quebec companies. Hachi and the Demetan were done here.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to do episodes on both of those.
Yeah,
in the future as well, because
the French would
absolutely
change. The French would absolutely redo the whole opening sequence and feature like popular singers from over there.
And sometimes I'm sorry, but they ruined some openings.
Oh my god, when I heard the Sailor Moon French opening for the first time, I couldn't. It was so bad, I couldn't believe it.
Did your ear bleed?
It's like
almost.
It's part of the so bad it's bad category.
And High School Kimengumi, like that is like one of the worst. But the French opening for that, it's like, oh my god, whatever you think is the worst localized like opening credit to an anime, be prepared to be proven wrong
by High School really Kimengumi. That show for some reason.
Yeah, actually, my sister also discovered that Mr. Lapointe knew Rock de Mess, the renowned Canadian producer.
Yeah, so, I think I've heard about this. I think you are probably because you mentioned it to me.
Yeah, probably, but there is an important connection between Gilles Lapointe and Mr. Demers. And Mr. Demers, he used to live in Japan, and his son was born there. So there is a link between these two men. But Rock Demers passed away in 2021. So we probably we can't ask him, but I guess they were friends in real life.
I mean, there were certainly opportunities for that to overlap. So yeah,
it's a small market after all.
Just to make sure everybody knows who he is the one who made the STEM Travelers, the Peanut Butter Solution, and he made a lot of popular Canadian movies, both in French and English, and sometimes in other countries. So
in Poland and
yeah. So he's also somebody important for Quebec.
So I was hoping that we could discuss the French cast of the show a little
Oh,
bit. So there are not a lot of surprising names in this cast, especially if you have followed other French Quebec dubs. Flora Balzano is Petit Castor, and Bernadette Maureen, Minifay herself, is Lily, or Laura. Laura, as she is in the French version. Her voice is unmistakable. She sounds exactly like Minifay in this. And Patricia, you had you had an update on these two actresses, from what I understand.
Oh well, I made some research. So I found some interesting information. Like Flora Balzano, she's also actually a Quebec author, and she was born in Algeria. So and she arrived in Quebec as a teenager, and she was quite young, probably in her early 20s when she dubbed Astro Boy and Le Petit Castor. She was also the French voice of Sébastien in Belle and Sebastian, Belle et Sébastien, and
I
she
think
was
she,
the
I
voice
think
of
she I think she's been in every Quebec show we've talked
yeah.
about on this
yeah,
podcast so far.
and Toubon in the Fable of the Green Forest. And I heard that she have done some voices in the Quebec version of The Simpsons, but and Bernadette Morin, well, you said it. She's a veteran voice actress in Quebec. She was born in France. She voiced Minifay, and she's known for excellent diction, very clear and easy to understand, almost like a French lesson. I think she also sang the theme song for Minifay, actually.
Yes, she did like everything for Minifay,
Yeah,
basically.
basically.
Didn't
And then
it almost seemed like that whole project was just kind of dumped on her, and she had to figure everything out and do it herself.
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And she also voiced other adult female characters, such as the mother of Mimi, also, I think. And you also have, I don't know if you mentioned it, but Elisabeth Chuvalisde is another major dubbing actress.
I wanted to talk about that because when like I mentioned Passepartout earlier, when I started rewatching the show, I immediately recognized that voice as the voice of Rigaudon, which was like an important character in that other show I talked about.
Sorry, which other show?
Passepartout, which is like the biggest French Canadian TV. It was a bit of
Oh,
a
that show. Yeah.
It's like our Sesame Street, if you want, like.
yeah,
Okay.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And
And
like it
and,
was
and sorry, she is Nanors or Daigo the bear
Nanos,
yes,
in this.
yeah,
Yeah.
Nanos, and she was also Yolande in Minifay, also the sister of
Mhm.
the triplets.
as
So
soon as the bear started talking, I was like, "Hey, that's Rigaudon." And this is funny because when I was a kid, I would associate those two characters together, but I was like too young to realize they shared the same voice actress. So it's kind of funny that I made the connection anyway.
and it's funny because like last week I heard her on the radio talking about
Yeah, yeah, she's still alive.
she's in her 90s, but she's still alive, and
In
she
fact,
she was
I
talking
believe
about
everyone we have mentioned so far is still alive, apparently.
even Bernadette. Bernadette is in her 90s also.
Con-
Flora Balzano is in her early 70s, I think, or late 60s.
yeah. Confirmed recently. So
Yeah. So, and Elisabeth Chevalisde was talking on the radio about arriving in Quebec as a Russian refugee. Imagine she was in a camp during the war in Russia. So imagine becoming a major voice actress in Quebec and being a Russian refugee.
Oh,
And she has no noticeable accent. Like, actually, her French is
no,
perfect. So
it's
yeah,
perfect. Even in Quebec French, she sounds like perfectly. I didn't know she was not born here.
yeah, she's actually Russian. So that's interesting.
Like Kim Yaroshevskaya.
Yeah, and she had a very, I guess she had a very hard childhood because of the war. So she was talking about this on the radio. It's interesting. I could send you the if you want this, I can send you the link to the interview. It's
Yeah, sure.
very interesting.
I love to learn about that. Like voice actors are really like unsung heroes of for a lot of people. Like they're such an integral part of your youth, and they're rarely ever like prominent or well known for the mainstream public, right?
Yeah, they're like Seiyu in Japan. They're
Yeah,
popular.
but see, you are a lot more popular in Japan that like French Canadian voice actors are
but
here.
French Canadian voice actors, they also get a lot of work dubbing like Hollywood movies as well.
Yeah,
So there's kind of a parallel. They're not like they don't come out of the they're not like idols like so many of them are in Japan though. It's that aspect's a little different.
Well, some are like recently we lost the beloved Beatrice Picard, who was the voice of Marge Simpson in Quebec, and I feel like the entire province mourned her.
Yeah, and it's sad because on the official webpage of The Simpsons, they mentioned, oh, we lost the voice of Marge in Quebec, and people didn't read. So they were like American people who said, oh no, oh my God. And when they discovered it was only the French Canadian version, they said, oh, who cares? You know?
Yeah, but that's how
Podcast.
it works. I mean, I'm not expecting people to care about stuff happening in Quebec, you know. I'm
Yeah,
even
but
surprised like Jesse is doing a podcast with us right now.
Hey, my goal is to bridge this gap. I want there to be a common narrative for anime for all of Canada.
You are my favorite Canadian.
yeah, you're my favorite Canadian too.
And who else is in the cast for this show? There's a few other names I think I recognize here.
I feel like a ton of voices are familiar to me, but like they are like people from like the 70s and 80s. So
Yeah, there was like Yves Mascotte, who was the voice of Papa Castor and other male characters in the show.
yeah, I know I've heard that voice 1,000 times, but I don't know the guy. Do you?
I remember hearing him in some shows, but I can't figure it out. So it's just in my memory, my childhood memory. I still remember him. So.
Yves Mascotte, his name?
Yves Mascotte, yeah, I don't know if he's related to the other actor called Mascotte. I'm not sure. Anyway.
Seems like he was really active like in children television in the 70s.
I know we mentioned Lily's mother, so it looks like her voice is actually Nicole Fontaine in this.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a Quebec actress also. Most of these people, they were actors and actresses on TV also.
Yeah, TV or radio,
Yeah.
generally, yeah.
Or theater also.
Yeah. Mascotte was a big name in French Canadian youth television in the 60s and 70s. It seems like my parents probably would know him.
He had a very manly voice,
Mhm.
like a father voice or.
Actually, I wanted to ask, so you can clarify this for me, a still non-French speaker.
Yep.
This show, did it make any use of accents? I know that when we were talking about Fables of the Green Forest, that dub was really unique because they just let everyone sound like they're from Quebec, which is unusual. Usually, everyone sounds very neutral in these dubs. How was this show approached?
Well, the show is in Canadian French, but not in slang, what we call
Yeah.
joual in.
Yeah, it's very neutral, like
Yeah.
they call like the français normatif, like the neutral register of Quebec French.
Like a European French speaker could easily understand. However, someone with a trained ear might recognize, Quebecois speech patterns and expressions. But
There's a few characters that sound more Quebecois than others. Like the Fox guy. The Fox really sounds like a French Canadian guy, I think.
yeah, he sounds like like a bully or a gang member, a yakuza.
A French Canadian
Yeah,
Yakuza.
yeah, kind of.
To me, he was the most noticeably French Canadian actor in the cast, the Fox. What was his name? Finot?
Yeah. Although it's like the fable of the Green Forest. It's kind of same kind of French, I think.
Like in French, we have something we call like the CBC French or the Français Radio Canadien. So this is kind of that, but maybe a bit more neutral even.
Yeah, in my opinion, if an European can understand, it means that it's still neutral.
It's kind of fun to hear like a certain familiarity in the voices of something you watch. This is not something I guess this is not something like English speakers would be familiar with because like everything is in English by default. But
Yeah.
growing up as a French kid, when you listen to stuff dubbed in French, it's kind of different that what you're used to, So you start to believe like French on TV is not the French you speak in your everyday life in Quebec. And even though like Le Petit Castor still used like a very neutral register, it still sounded to me more familiar than other shows that sounded more French, if it makes any sense. like Cat's Eyes, which came up, Cat's Eye, which came out a few many years later, was definitely more French sounding than like French sounding than the Le Petit Castor.
But it makes sense because Mr. Lapointe, he really believed that Quebec needs its own like dubbing or translation. That's why he fought against Walt Disney. So thanks to him now we have our own French version of the Disney movies. So it's thanks to him actually.
Yeah, it's not just a language. It's like the cultural stuff is different, and it's interesting to feel more familiar with the stuff you're watching. I guess we have that guy to thank for Disney keeping the hockey scenes in Inside Out instead of replacing them with soccer like in the European French version.
Oh wow, I didn't know they did that.
I said Disney, is it Pixar? Pixar. Well, still same company. Yeah. In France, they replaced the hockey scene with a soccer scene when the father is watching sports.
Yeah, I don't like the way they do that in Pixar movies.
No,
it seems dystopian to me that you can just you make changes to the actual film itself for it to localize it at their level. That's bad. It's a bad way to make movies.
Yeah, but I guess it's for children, and they don't want them to feel alienated. Like fun fact from that same movie, like the girl doesn't as a kid she doesn't like broccoli, but in Japan she doesn't like bell peppers instead.
Bell peppers, yeah.
So they replace the food because I guess Japanese kids would not understand because like broccoli is popular in Asia. I guess I don't know.
That's fair.
All right, so I want to talk a little more about just the show itself and the way that it approaches certain things. So as we have kept harping on throughout this episode, there's a lot of parallels you could draw between this and Fables of the Green Forest. And this is something I talked about with Dez on the Fables of the Green Forest episode, is how the approach to making the characters like animals is very different in this show compared to that show. And I want to know if you two had anything more to say on that subject.
First of all, in Quebec, Le Petit Castor aired earlier than, the Forêt Verte aired a few years later.
Yeah, it was later in the 80s, I think. Yeah.
So I think like when the Forêt Verte aired, Le Petit Castor was off the air at that moment, and I was missing my favorite show, and I was happy that another similar show was happening. But then after a few episodes, I just like couldn't get. Yeah, when we did that episode, I told you I didn't get into it as much as I got into Le Petit Castor. I think like the animals in La Forêt Verte were less relatable because maybe they were more treated like animals and not like people, like you said. It felt similar enough to be familiar, but different enough to be a bit off-putting for me, at least.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense because the characters in this are definitely more human. Because that's one thing I really like about Fables of the Green Forest, and overall, I liked Le Petit Castor more than I was expecting. Like I mentioned before, it's a very surprising. It's a surprising show. Lots of stuff was unexpected in this, and its characters are very human. They have very human problems. You have things like death in the family. You have things like your parents fighting. Conflicts like that are really at the heart of most of the plots of the episodes. For the most part, the characters are depicted as animals as a way to just sort of add a layer of unrealism to it, or not unrealism. It just adds this sort of.
No, I get what you mean. Like there are more anthropomorphized than the one in La Forêt Verte, but
yes,
but they still live in the forest with other animals. So it's kind of in between. It's not like full on like a Disney stuff like DuckTales.
It's very much. It is a funny animal book kind of approach to animals for the most part. They look like animals. They have aspects of animals, but the logic behind it is not really clear. It's not really clear where they draw the line. There's some animals that are just animals. Some animals are like human animals, and like, how do they make the decision? It's not clear. It's kind of weird. And there are no actual humans around. Whereas in Fables of the Green Forest, they wear clothes and they live in a society kind of like humans, but the way that they wear their clothes, the way they act, everything is like extremely well thought out and consistent with the type of animal they are and how that animal actually would act. The fact that they're all in a society, they're all kind of reluctant to be in that role. Like they're just doing it because they have to survive. And that's sort of the central conflict with Fables of the Green Forest, is that these characters will do anything they have to survive. They would even kill or eat each other if they really had to. That's kind of the sense that you get in that show. That's the tension that's kind of underlying everything in Fables of the Green
More
Forest.
like Watership Down.
Yeah, it's
kind of.
yeah, it's not quite as overt as Watership Down, but it's the same kind of idea under it. Whereas with Le Petit Castor, different approach entirely. These are, there's a more human element to it, but you have the much looser anthropomorphic, the much looser connections to the animals. They are. So yeah, it's a bit of a different scale for sure.
Like here's a good example. The bear in Le Petit Castor fishes with a fishing rod. The bear in La Forêt Verte fishes like a bear would with his paws.
But there are also there are quite a few bears in this show who all have different I think there in one episode there is a bear who he doesn't wear clothes and he is just a bear, and you're supposed to actually think he's going to be bad or be violent because of that, but then he winds up helping them and it's a big surprise. It's like, so the characters who are more animal like, it's framed in a negative way and you associate them with violence or threat. But the ones who are more human or act more human are more quote unquote civilized. That's I guess that's one way to look at it.
And there's even a somewhat educational aspect in terms of social relationships in Petit Castor. For example, there's an episode where Chuck and where Garu's gang don't believe Papa Beaver when he warns them about a flood. They're in denial, and Papa Beaver, he worried and wants to save them, but Chuck tell his father to let them die because they don't deserve to be saved. And I remember clearly, Papa Castor slaps him and tell him that even people we don't like deserve to live. So
yeah. Some of those more like the one episode where the dad warns talks about an upcoming solar eclipse.
That's my favorite episode, the solar eclipse episode, because he actually, you go ahead and explain it, Dez.
Everybody turns into a crazy lynch mob about him being some kind of sorcerer or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, this hits too close to home.
But it's basically the whole episode that's actually when the three delinquents are at their worst because they're actively spreading superstitious disinformation,
and everybody believes them.
Yeah, and it's
just
because
this used to enrage me as a kid, and now it just it makes me super depressed instead.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's pretty sad. But yeah, that really stuck out. That episode really stood out for me too.
Yeah, the vibe was very different from Fables of the Green Forest. For me, Fables of the Green Forest felt more poetic. It had adventures, but in my memory, it's like a storybook. It's calmer. And Petit Castor had more action. There were even fights at times, like a shonen almost.
Did you know this? In the first episode, the two kids, the bear and the castor, the beaver, are fighting, and the parents are basically like, "Oh, boys will be boys. This is normal." I'm like, this is so not okay today with what's popular today.
Yeah, and Fables of the Green Forest is more like there's lots of tension, but here is just lots of more outright violence a lot of the time. So how do you feel about the animation quality compared to either just other shows in general or shows that were on French Canadian TV at that time?
It wasn't that bad for the year, right? I think it was okay. It still holds up.
It's comparable to what was being done in the 70s. There are sometimes still frames, and and you see that it's entirely made using cell animation, but of course it's the 70s, so it's cell animation. There's no CGI. So
certainly some episodes look pretty rough, but it's not bad looking. It looks maybe not quite as good as other anime at the time, but it looks better than just about anything coming out of the United States
Yeah,
for
pretty
television
much.
at that time.
Yeah,
No,
and the Quebec version has a lot of dust and small black spots
yeah,
because probably of the bad quality of the film. But I believe the Japanese version has some as well, some black spots,
Yeah,
dust.
you can find the Japanese version. I don't think there's been a HD remaster of it, but there is a DVD version that looks pretty clean, pretty good. And on that note, actually, you could probably just completely sync the French version with those DVD masters because it's like nothing is cut. It's
I
complete
feel
one to
they
one.
didn't cut anything.
Yeah, yeah. From what I saw, like I didn't watch too many episodes. I watched just a couple episodes in both languages, and as far as I could tell, it was exactly the same. There were no differences at all.
So that means the quality of the production of Gia Lapointe was great. So
Yeah,
Absolutely,
maybe it's a sign of quality or it's a sign of no budget at all. We
maybe
can
a
I
little of
prefer
both.
to see it as a sign of quality, and they wanted to preserve the the
Yeah,
original work.
I'll choose to believe that as well.
Obviously this was a big part of Radio Canada kids television all throughout the 1980s. I think this show ran until 1990 was the last date I have been told was
Yeah,
the last airing. So obviously it was always it aired a lot. It was very prominent, very popular. But when we look back now, how does this show hold up compared to other anime that was airing on TV during that time? Do you think does it deserve to be remembered as much as say Heidi or Anne of Green Gables or Fables of the Green Forest or Goldorak or Albator or those shows? Or does it not would you say it doesn't compare as favorably?
I feel like unlike a lot of show you mentioned, I feel like this one is very like aimed at children. So as an adult watching it now, I find it kind of interesting, but like kind of boring at the same time. I would definitely not rewatch the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like I would like recommend like Captain Harlock in a heartbeat to anybody, but I would not recommend watching Petit Castor if you're not like a kid. And even if you have kids, like maybe like the morals and the values have changed a bit since then. So I don't know. I feel like it was a product of the time, and since it was like you said, like it was kind of an advertisement for a mascot. You know, it's hard to see it as something that deserves to be preserved, but it's a fun piece of history as far as I'm concerned because I feel like I grew up in an entirely different world where this show was super important, but while it was not anywhere else on Earth aside from Japan.
Mhm.
And even then, I don't think it's very like you said. The mascots are still around, but is Don Chuck still like a beloved franchise in Japan? I don't think so. I never see it referenced anywhere. So.
Yeah, there's not that much information
Mhm.
about it around. And like again, since it's never been translated into English, there's just that makes it preservation has not been that great. At least
So I feel like it's kind of a product of the Twilight Zone us Gen Xers, French Canadian kids were raised into.
Yeah, same thing. Same for me. Like the show was clearly made for children. That's what the Japanese call a kodomo show, meaning
The
a show for
Kodomo.
young kids. And there's no. It's not like Arlok. There's no hidden meaning in the storylines. The episodes are simple with a clear beginning, middle, and end. So it's like the stories are simple. Um, because of the animation, I don't think kids today would love it. They would probably think it looks old or or strange or
Yeah.
messy. But we were talking earlier about the the single parents in the show, and I think it was quite ahead of its time for a Japanese show of that era to depict single parents family. That's something that was commonly shown in Japan. So I think it was interesting, or maybe interesting for children, who live with a single parent.
do you think it approaches those themes well, kind of looking back?
Well, it's a what we yeah, but they kept it simple. There's no
Yeah.
big it's clearly aimed at young children, so it doesn't explore these themes very deeply. But simply portraying single parents families at that time was almost revolutionary. Because usually in show you always see the dad, the mom, and the children. So that was interesting.
I remember not being quite sure. Like maybe when I was like super young, I was not like completely familiar with the concept of life and death, maybe, and I found it strange that the mom was not there. I understood that she was dead, but what it meant exactly, like I was not sure. And she was kind of depicted like on being on the moon in the ending credits, so I thought maybe she
Yeah.
lived on the moon and they can't go see her or something. I remember seeing my mom and she had to explain the concept to me, and I was like, when people die, they go to the moon. This is how it works.
And I saw something so funny on the internet last year. It was in French. It said, "Well, if you're evil, you're going to say Happy Father's Day to Nobody Boys Ruby, and if you're evil, you will say Happy Mother's Day to Petit Castor also."
Yeah.
So that's funny.
Okay, I think that might be the note to end things on for
Yeah.
today. So yes, big thanks to both of you for coming on. Patricia, where what are you up to? Where can people find you? You're doing some you're doing some conventions this year, I hear.
Yes, and at the Chicon in Quebec City on April oh my God, that's on April the 12th of April actually. And I'll do I'm very proud of it. I'm working on a panel about the Radio City Pop, the music from the 80s in Japan.
Yeah.
So I'm doing this panel. I will also do a panel about we'll do a Ghibli quiz, me and my friend Michael Betty. So and we will do it, and I will do the same panels at Otakuton, so you will be able to see them in August.
And Dez, anything that you're up to, or where can people find you on social media?
I haven't been doing a lot since I took a break from my comic and being a permanent fixture at French Canadian conventions, but I'm still kind of active on trying to get more active and getting back into the game because I kind of miss it. So I will definitely be like in Atakutan this summer just as a regular convention goer, but I'm trying to get back into the game. We can still find my webcomic at frivolesque.com, but it hasn't been updated in a long time now. But I still haven't given up on it.
All right, and thanks for tuning into Zon in Canada. You can reach me on Blue Sky at jbetteridge or email zonandcanada@gmail.com. The theme song is by Ultraclystron and can be found on his album Packet Flood, which you can find at ultraclystron.com. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice, and I'll see you again.